actually going to get the most out of a 16-inch 4K laptop with an RTX 3070 Ti and an i7-12700H, and who would be better off putting their money somewhere else? If you're on the fence about spending a premium on a machine that promises both creator-grade color and high-end gaming, you're not alone. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this video I'm going to walk through the real-world trade-offs, the daily experience, and whether the price tag really lines up with what you'll actually use it for. First off, the Aero line has always marketed itself as a bridge between a workstation and a gaming rig. The XE5 model doubles down on that promise with a Samsung AMOLED panel that hits a 4K UHD plus resolution, 120Hz refresh, and HDR support. For a photographer or video editor, that screen alone can be a game changer. You'll see deeper blacks, a wider color gamut, and the kind of pixel density that makes UI scaling feel natural. But the same panel is also a huge power draw. In my own tests, even simple tasks like browsing the web or checking email drained the battery faster than a typical 1080p laptop, and you'll start seeing the charger plugged in after an hour of heavy Photoshop work. The CPU, an Intel 12th Gen i7-12700H, pairs a performance hybrid architecture with 14 cores. That translates into snappy compile times and smooth multitasking, especially when you've got 32 GB of DDR5 RAM hanging off the motherboard. For anyone who runs virtual machines, does 3D rendering, or likes to have dozens of browser tabs open while editing a 4K video, the extra headroom is noticeable. On the flip side, the extra cores generate more heat, and the chassis, while sleek, doesn't have the massive cooling fins you'd find on a desktop-class laptop. Under sustained loads, the fans spin up aggressively, and you'll hear a noticeable whine that can be distracting in a quiet studio or a late-night gaming session. Now, about the GPU. The RTX 3070 Ti with 8 GB of GDDR6 is a powerhouse for 1440p gaming, and it can push many titles into 4K at medium settings. In practice, if you're a competitive gamer who lives for 144Hz frame rates, you'll quickly find the 4K panel limiting. You'll have to drop resolution to 1440p or lower to hit those high refresh numbers. That's not a flaw in the card, it's a consequence of pairing a premium, power-hungry display with a mobile GPU that still has to share thermal budget with the CPU. For creators, though, the RTX's dedicated ray tracing cores and AI-accelerated features like DLSS can actually speed up preview renders in DaVinci Resolve or Blender, especially when you're working in 4K footage. Storage is generous. A 2 TB NVMe SSD gives you space for a massive media library and quick load times. The drive is soldered directly onto the board, so you won't be swapping it out for upgrades, but the sheer capacity means most users won't feel the need to add external drives for day-to-day work. One practical downside I ran into is the limited number of Thunderbolt 4 ports. There are only 2, and one doubles as the charging connector. If you run a dual monitor setup and need to plug in a high-speed external SSD at the same time, you'll have to juggle a dongle or a dock, which adds a little extra cost and cable clutter. So, who should consider buying the Aero 16 XE5? If you're a content creator who needs accurate color straight out of the box, does a lot of 4K video editing, or works in a field where screen fidelity directly impacts your output, the AMOLED panel alone justifies the premium. The combination of DDR5 memory and a high-end CPU also means you can future-proof your workflow for the next few years without worrying about bottlenecks. Gamers who want a portable machine that can still handle AAA titles at respectable settings will enjoy the RTX 3070 Ti, especially if you're comfortable playing at 1440p or are okay with turning down graphics options for the occasional 4K session. On the other side of the coin, if you're primarily a casual gamer who only plays a few titles a week, or you're looking for a laptop to carry around campus for note-taking and streaming, you're probably overpaying. The battery life on a 4K AMOLED panel rarely makes it past 5 hours of mixed use, and the fan noise under load can be a nuisance in tight spaces like libraries or coffee shops. Users who prioritize long battery endurance over raw performance might be better off with a 1080p display and a more power-efficient integrated GPU, which can stretch a day's work without hunting for an outlet. Also, if you're a competitive esports player chasing 240Hz at 1080p, you'll find a better price-to performance ratio in a dedicated gaming laptop that focuses on refresh rate rather than resolution. When it comes to value, the Aero's price sits firmly in the high-end segment. What you're paying for isn't just raw horsepower, it's the color-accurate screen, the DDR5 platform, and the aesthetic that fits into a professional environment. If those factors line